All right, I am so thrilled to be here today with my friend Angel. Her story is very impactful, very inspiring, and her message is as well. So I wanted to make sure that we include her on our Beyond the Pharmacy series. I brought her on to talk specifically about seed nutrition, some of which you may have heard about, but I believe a lot of which you might find pretty impactful beyond what you may have already known. So that's why I wanted to bring this to you today. My intention, as you know, throughout this series has been to bring to you modalities of treatment, nutrition, etc., that go beyond the pharmacy. So what can we do in our lives and our personal health and wellness and that of our family that is beyond just taking a medication? So with that, I would love to introduce my friend Angel Shireman to our Beyond the Pharmacy series. Let's first introduce you, have you introduce yourself and share your story, Angel. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Claudia. I'm appreciative of the work that you're doing with this Beyond the Pharmacy series, and I'm so thankful that you've asked me to be on today. So I am Angel Shireman. I'm 43, sorry. And I have a long list of health issues that happened to me at a rather young age. And so I'm just going to briefly touch on some of those. At age approximately 12 on, I started having acne. And that lasted well over 20 years. And so I struggled with acne for a large part of my life. And also in my late teens, I got insomnia. And the insomnia has lasted well over 20 years. So those are two big health challenges that I battled at a very young age. And so those health challenges put me in and out of doctor's offices on lots of prescription meds, lots of different treatments. And so I'll get back to that later, but those are two big things that I had at a rather young age. So then at age 27, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer of my lymph nodes, and I had a couple masses in my chest. And so from age 27 on, I started doing as the doctors suggested. I did 8 rounds of chemotherapy, and I did 25 rounds of radiation. So leading up to this point in my life, I was a great patient. I would go in and out of doctor's offices. I would listen to everything that they had suggested that I do, all the medications that they wanted me to be on. I was willing to jump onto any medication in hopes that it would help me with all my different problems that I had faced. And so I did the same with my cancer treatment. I was ready to go. I did the chemo, did the radiation, and when all that finished, they said that I was good to go and I just needed to be checked once a year. So from that moment on, something started to switch within me after I finished my cancer treatment. I was on many prescription drugs during my cancer treatment. And when I had finished that, I got to a point where I honestly kind of hated all these prescription drugs that I had been on my whole life. But something that I had noticed throughout the years was that many things that I was prescribed actually didn't work well for me. So for instance, in my acne story, I did everything under the sun. I did all the prescription meds, all the topical things that they wanted me to be on, and nothing ever worked well. And when I reflect back on that, I remember them saying that nutrition had nothing to do with my acne, so there was nothing that I needed to do with my diet. And also that was true for my story with cancer. When I had cancer, nobody talked about nutrition. They didn't say that that mattered. In fact, what I heard at the time was, eat anything that you want to eat. It doesn't matter. We just don't want you to lose weight. So it didn't matter if I ate sugar. In fact, I'd be sitting there getting my chemo and they would bring out plates of cookies and, desserts filled with sugar. And, I have since learned that sugar feeds cancer. So that is a big thing that I should have been staying clear of. That was like putting fuel on the fire. And so at the time I didn't know that, but it's just interesting to me when I look back and I remember that nobody mentioned that nutrition mattered. And so when I finished my cancer treatment, a couple things started to shift for me. One was I started to learn about supplements. I was approached by different people to try different supplements, and I started on the path of using some supplements to help boost my immune system. And so that was one shift. And then another shift was that After cancer, one of the skin situations that developed on my face was hyperpigmentation. And so I got hyperpigmentation due to being on birth control pills, and I was on that because of my acne, so all these things. And so when I went to the doctor to talk about hyperpigmentation on my face, they prescribed a medication, and it was the first time ever that I decided to look at the side effects and actually question what I was being put on. And so when I looked at the side effects, I was astounded to see that one of the possible side effects was that it could make my hyperpigmentation way worse. It could cause darkening, blackening of the skin. And I thought, well, this is scary. Like, I definitely don't want this situation to get worse. And so, you know, that was the first time that it was kind of an aha moment to say, you know, I should start looking at medications and seeing what the possible risks and side effects are. And so I decided to not use that medication, even though I was wanting my hyperpigmentation gone. You know, what I decided to do was get off birth control, let time take its toll, and then eventually my skin faded back to its regular color. But so that started my journey of kind of being more proactive at looking at medications, questioning the medications that I'm on, and wondering, is there possibly another way that I could help, you know, my health situation or whatever I'm dealing with. And so then fast forward, you know, approximately 7 years after my cancer treatment, or a little bit longer, I had my first child, my firstborn. And when he was born, he had tons of health issues. So it started from the day he was born, he had gut issues. And it manifested with blood in his stool and colicky, and never would sleep. And so I was breastfeeding him, and we started realizing that my breast milk was causing huge sensitivities to his gut. And so I had to get on what's called the total elimination diet. I was down to 5 foods when I was breastfeeding him because he couldn't tolerate anything that I was eating. And so so this was absolutely huge for our family because, you know, he was a very difficult baby, and we were trying to figure out how to help him. Well, his gut issues ended up manifesting into severe eczema. So eczema is, you know, drying of the skin. And he got it head to toe, literally covered his whole entire body. He looked like a burn victim at the age of 2. And we couldn't even touch him, and he would scream. And I knew from a very young age that my son was athletically gifted. From about 9 months old, we could tell that he had this athletic giftedness. And so at the age of 2, I'm looking ahead to his future, and I'm thinking, like, if he has this severe eczema, you know, for a large part of his life, he's not going to be able to use his gifts with athleticism. And so I had a strong determination to find a way to heal him naturally. And so this started our journey, our family journey, on really looking at ways of how can we heal the body naturally, because everything that I had been told about his eczema was simply put this cream on, put this topical steroid cream on. And again, I had become a great researcher and looking at side effects and reading people's stories. And so I learned that these topical steroid creams, they do suppress possibly the looks of eczema, that may be only for a short period of time. And it's really just a Band-Aid. And I didn't want a Band-Aid. I didn't want to stop using this steroid cream and then have him flare up worse and then have to get a stronger steroid cream. I didn't want, you know, just for him to look better. I wanted him to actually be healed. And I was trying to figure out, is there a way to heal him of this? And so I scoured the internet. It was many sleepless nights, lots of stress. And I found a woman's story who was very inspiring to me. She had such severe eczema that she almost had to have her leg amputated. And she had done everything under the sun that the doctors had told her to do for many years. She was like in her 50s or 60s. And nothing worked for her either. And so, you know, reading her story, it was even more convincing that the steroid creams was not the path for me. And she did finally find a cure for her eczema, and it was through diet, you know, changing up her diet, eliminating inflammatory foods, getting on certain supplements. And so I was very inspired by her story, and we started our son down that journey. And within 3 months of changing up our diet, eating all organic, adding a few supplements, we got him 90% reversed from his head to toe eczema in 3 months. And that was astounding. And it started my belief in healing the body naturally. And so, you know, even though I look back on those days as incredibly stressful, I consider it a huge blessing because I did not make changes that were necessary for me even after having cancer. And so it was because of him that now our family has started on this huge health journey. And so then 2 years after that, I found a lump in my breast, and I am at incredibly high risk for more cancer due to the treatment that I had chosen of chemotherapy and radiation. I am now at very high risk for thyroid cancer, breast cancer, you name it cancer, I'm at high risk. And so when I found the lump in my breast, it was now 3 years ago, I was pretty certain that it was going to be cancer because I'm approximately, how many years out? It happened in 2002 that I had cancer, so I'm now like 16 years out. And oftentimes, you know, there'll be a return of another cancer. So I was very aware of that. And so at this time, when I found this lump in my breast, I started thinking, you know, what path am I going to take? Am I going to take the path that I took before of chemo radiation, or am I at a new place in life? And I discovered that, yes, I am at a place now where I look at cancer and I look at all these problems that happen within our body as a warning signal. It's like an alarm going off saying, you know, something's wrong. You need to figure out how to rebalance. You need to figure out how to get to the root of the problem and not just try to cover it up. And so I was at that place where I knew that I would want to do something more natural and empower my body to heal and rebalance. And in that time is when I found Seed Nutrition.
Wow.
So,
That's a lot of really important and insightful steps that led you to where you are today, which, and I think that your story highlights so much of what so many of us moms go through, and parents in general, dads too, is that we kind of ignore, not necessarily intentionally ignore, but we don't necessarily research as much into health and wellness until our little ones come along, and then we think, but we want better for them, and then we always do more and think more for them, and sometimes it takes that to get us on track. And I can definitely empathize with your eczema story. My son has a peanut allergy and had many more food allergies as an infant, and we dealt with a lot of that eczema. We dealt with a lot of the same issues with regard to here's your topical steroid. And I knew also that it was coming from my breast milk because there were allergens. I didn't know at the time what they were, but I knew that there was an allergic type of situation going on. And, you know, it took me about 3 or 4 pediatricians till I got somebody to agree to test him. So really being proactive in advocating for yourself and your children is just, it's so important. And we can only do as much as we can do until we have the information that we need. And so that's why I think this is such a really great topic for us to go through. So with regarding seeds, so we're kind of moving into that now. I love your story, and I love the fact that, you know, you've been so cognizant, even if it's just been since, you know, your children have been born, you've just been so much more aware, and that awareness is then helping so many others. So we all, you know, most of us have heard some of the, you know, the trendy seeds, you know, chia seeds and pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and certainly flax seeds. So we have an awareness of seeds on sort of a very generalized level. I personally love chia seed pudding, and I understand that seeds can definitely benefit us. But you've got a much deeper understanding from both personal experience and seeing people in your life who have benefited from them. So take us through a little bit of a journey through what seeds are and how they might benefit us, and then into the difference between whole seeds and, you know, liquefied seeds.
Okay. So yes, I'm going to go back to my story for a minute because this just kind of helps to answer, I think, the questions. So when I found seeds, I too was very aware of chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds. I had been using those in the couple of years leading up to finding Seed Nutrition. And so I was very aware of seeds. And also one of the things that when my son had eczema, the lady that I started following, my mentor at the time, she was saying that we should buy grapes with seeds in it because those seeds were very important for skin health. And so I remember going to the store and I was looking for grapes with seeds, and I was astounded because it's always like seedless grapes. And I'm like, why are they taking the seeds out? I want the seed. So, you know, when I found Seed Nutrition and they had the seed, the grape seed in it, I had already learned that I had been seeking grape seeds. But what I didn't know at the time of when I found Seed Nutrition was I didn't know anything about the black cumin seed. And so during this time when I think I have breast cancer, I start doing a lot of research into black cumin seeds, black raspberry seeds, the grape Chardonnay seed, which are some of the main seeds in these products. And I was astounded at some of the stuff I was reading, particularly about the black cumin seed. You know, there's tons of science behind these seeds, thousands of, you know, research and science and studies, but they've also been largely used all throughout history. And so, you know, it dates back even to King Tut and Cleopatra, and she used it for her hair and her skin, and King Tut was buried with it to take to his afterlife, so they knew the value of these seeds. It's just that we, as a modern society, are just now tapping into the value of seeds. And so when I found it, it made sense to me, and it was exciting to me. And the other thing that happened was I had been using products for a decade leading up to finding Seed Nutrition. So I had used lots of different products, and what I discovered is that this company is a very unique line of supplements. They're unique in the sense that a seed grows into all of the other supplements that I had taken. So I've taken herbs, I've taken power juices, I've taken you know, things that were just the fruits and veggies. So when you think about it, the seed was a part of all of those things, but none of those companies were using the seed itself. So it was very exciting for me to find a company that was using the seed itself, because there is far more nutrient density packed within that seed. And it's also very important that they're using the entire seed versus just extracting the oil, because with the entire seed, it is a whole food. And so our body can take this as a whole food. There's so many components that make it beneficial for our body. It's incredibly nutrient dense, so it's 20 to 30 times more nutrient dense within that seed than what that seed grows into and produces. So if you eat the grape seed, you're getting 20 to 30 times more nutrient density than the grape itself. So it's a very nutrient-rich source of food. And I consider it to be the most valuable food, you know, in my entire house is my seed wellness products, because we're just getting so much nutrition from that. But even aside from the nutrition that we're getting from it, the seed oils are incredibly valuable. So, you know, we're a society of people that are not getting good, fresh, unadulterated, essential fatty acids in our diets. It's really, you know, we're getting tons of fats that, just like I said, aren't unadulterated. And so our body needs fats, our brain needs fats, our skin, everything needs this. It's essential. We need to get it from our food source, but we're getting fats that aren't pure. So, you know, our body's taking that in, and that can cause inflammation and problems with our hormones and all sorts of things. And so when we eat the seed, we're getting tons of fresh omega-3s and omega-6. So for me, you know, I just don't even take fish oil anymore. I just use my seed oils, and I'm getting fresh, you know, fresh essential fatty acids that have helped with brain health and all sorts of things. So that's another component of the seeds. And then another part is that they're hugely anti-inflammatory, which is absolutely vital right now, because inflammation underlies every single chronic degenerative problem that people face. From acne, you know, from my years of acne, all the way to depression, all the brain problems, you know, ADHD, schizophrenia, to cancer. So inflammation's under all of this stuff. So I'm going to show you a picture here, because what ended up happening was I got on the seed-based wellness products thinking that I had cancer. I went in for a scan. So I'm at a place in my life where I will no longer do mammograms, simply because every year that I get that done, it's adding more radiation to my chest, and my chest has already been largely radiated. So I get what's called a thermography. So I went in to get a thermography, and it looks for heat in your body. And I don't know if you could see this well. So when I got my thermography scan, this is my chest, and red, the color red and orange shows how much heat is in my chest. I'm trying to see what's a good picture here.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, so I was filled with inflammation, absolutely filled. And when I saw this picture, I honestly thought that I was full-blown cancer. because I knew that I didn't want to see the red and the orange color. So what they concluded was that I did not have cancer, but they concluded that I had lots of residual damage in my chest, in my tissues, in my cells from radiation. And so it was very important that I get this inflammation down, because of course, where there's inflammation, there can be more cancer, and then there can also be metastasized cancer, since that travels along the pathway of inflammation. So when I found Seed Wellness, it was exciting because it's hugely anti-inflammatory. It takes the inflammation down in our bodies like by 33%, and when they've tested it, it's even like 280 times stronger than an aspirin for reducing inflammation and pain within our bodies. And so that is so important, because nowadays, you know, people are getting on all sorts of different anti-inflammatory meds, but those meds are also causing their bodies, you know, much harm. And so it's important to find a safe and effective way to get our inflammation under control. And so when I started Seed Wellness, I went back 3 months later, and this is a picture then of my chest showing more, you know, green and yellow, which means that I was having cooler results versus hot results. And so that shows that my inflammation was hugely reduced just in 3 months of drinking this Seed Wellness product. And so that was a huge testimony for me right off the bat, was seeing that my inflammation that was there for over 10 years, because they concluded that that was damage done, you know, well over 10 years ago, that I was able to reduce and help that damage in my chest, you know, within just a few months of drinking Seed Nutrition. But another thing that happened was it took away a pain in my neck that I'd had for 4 years, and I didn't even know that that was going to happen. So that was another huge testimony that came forth, you know, for me, was this pain reduction. And so now I've been on it a couple of years, and I've my insomnia that I've had for a lifetime has gone away. Of course, my skin is doing better than ever. So I've had multiple things. My hormones have been balanced. I had huge hormonal imbalance after I went through chemo and radiation. So my hormones have completely balanced out, and I believe that that's in large part to the essential fatty acids that are in these products, you know, the unadulterated essential fatty acids helping my hormones, giving my body an oil change of fresh fats and oils that I needed. I feel like that's a huge contributor to my hormone health. I don't know if you want me to stop and you could ask another question.
No, I think it's such a great point, because the benefits that have come from one, you know, whole food for you through our traditional, you know, pharmacy system or medication system would have taken multiple targeted medications with multiple potential side effects, with multiple co-pays, and so I think that the widespread nature of the benefits is great to highlight, because really our bodies have the potential to heal themselves if we just feed it the right nutrition. And that, as you mentioned previously, is just not being, in our opinion, highlighted enough. When my father was in the hospital for chemotherapy, he was also offered cookies, and you know, and the poor volunteer, I certainly didn't want to get on her case, but the poor volunteer who was told to walk around with the cookies, you know, I kind of wanted to say, is there no other option for these people? I mean, I think that's great that you're trying to give them all a snack, but why is it that nutrition is not a priority? Why is it not being talked about? Why, you know, are healthy options not being given? And so I think that it's just great that we're having this conversation, because I think it really will bring to light a lot of things that people kind of inherently know, but nobody's validated it for them. Nobody's helped them realize that they are right, that it doesn't seem right because it's actually not right. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we talked a little bit about seeds. And so the product that you take actually is different from the whole seeds that maybe many of us sprinkle on our yogurt, or, you know, the flax seeds that we put in our foods. You know, I certainly, like I've mentioned, chia seed pudding. Tell me about, you know, the cold pressing and the liquefaction process specifically of the product that you use, just because that is different from what many of us have been exposed to.
Yeah. Yes, and this is actually very important. So the way that the company manufactures this product is absolutely vital, because with seeds, they have to be grounded up for us to receive the nutritional benefit. and to receive, the essential fatty acids from it. So we can't just take the seed, eat it whole. It's going to go right through us. And there's many people that have problems such as Crohn's disease, diverticulitis. They've been told not to eat the seed. But the way that this company does it is it's a cold press process that they grind the seed first because that releases the nutritional components and value of it. And with the cold press, it helps to, extract the oil from the seed, and it leaves it completely filled with its nutrition, and they immediately vacuum seal it, which this is another important factor because seeds, when they're oxidized, when you grind them down and then they become oxidized, they go rancid very quickly. And so then it can go from a good oil to a bad oil pretty fast. And so the way that the company does it is brilliant because they use the cold press process, they use the whole seed, they grind it down, but then they immediately vacuum seal package it into these little packages. And so part of it is I love it because it's so convenient that I can take this wherever I go. I can fly on an airplane. No matter where I go, I am guaranteed superfood, in my diet daily. But the reason they did it wasn't just for the convenience factor. It was to preserve the freshness so that the second I rip this open and I drink it, this is a liquid. You don't have to mix it into anything else. It's ready to go. So when I rip it open and drink it, not only am I getting a slurry of hand-chosen picked seeds that are high in its antioxidants, high in its anti-inflammatory properties, it's a day's worth of nutrition. This one packet is equal to eating 9.3 pounds of fresh berries. Its antioxidants are so high that, you couldn't sit down and eat that much food. But I love it because I'm also getting that fresh omegas to my, to my brain, to my body, to my skin. And so oftentimes what's happening is that, people might go out and right now there's a fad for black oil is what it's called. So it is the black cumin seed, but it's only the oil. They've extracted the oil from the seed, and it's a huge fad that people are going and buying black oil. But the problem with that is, well, first of all, they're missing out on what the entire seed brings. They're missing out on the fiber and all the minerals and the vitamins and the fact that that's a whole food in and of itself. So they're just getting the oil. But when they extract it like that, that becomes oxidized. And so depending on how these companies are bottling it up, the second somebody goes out and buys black oil and they open up the bottle, it is now oxidized and it will now start to go rancid. So depending on how quickly they get through that bottle, it's not going to be a fresh dose of essential fatty acids every time they drink it. And so I do love the way that this company manufactures it. They have multiple certifications behind the way in which they manufacture it. I love that Seed Nutrition is vegan. I love that it's gluten-free, it's organic, it's non-GMO. All of those things matter. They hugely matter because the seed is the fatty acid metabolism of the plant. So it is where the toxins go in the plant and they store. So such as our body, toxins are stored in our fat cells. So the toxins in that plant, if it's been sprayed with pesticides, if Roundup's been sprayed on it, etc., it goes to the seed. So it's very important that we're eating an organic, non-GMO seed. And so all of these things mattered to me when I found this company, the way it was manufactured, and the ingredients, of course, and the fact that it was organic and non-GMO, those all matter. So yes, it comes in the little individual packets, but the other cool thing about this is not only are people drinking it to get a day's worth of nutrition, to oxygenate their cells, it helps with anti-aging because it literally is extending cell life by 62%. It's helping the body to become more alkaline in its state, which helps to prevent disease. So it does all of these things. It detoxifies. That's another huge thing that I haven't noted. It's huge in its detoxification. So, in the case of my son, I believe that he was hugely toxic due to me, with all that I had done, with all the medications, the chemo, the radiation. And so I believe that he was so toxic that his skin was expelling the toxins. His body wasn't working properly to expel the toxins. So these products are also very, very good at helping the body to expel toxins. And And we're in a state right now, a day and age of time where toxins are just absolutely huge. You know, we're being bombarded from the food that we eat to the air that we breathe to what we're putting on our skin. And it's so important that we stay on top of, you know, good detoxification. But what I was going to say is that you can put this on topically. So many people are having huge results by even just putting this on topically to help with pain and inflammation. So that's what's exciting, is you could do both, internal and topical, to get optimal results. So for instance, my children, if they ever get stung by a bee, fall and bonk their head and get, you know, a big knot that comes up, this is the first thing that I do. I say, drink a Sol, and then I take, you know, some and I stick it on their bump, on their sting. People will put it on arthritis zones. People can put it on just any skin condition or, you know, a pain area, and they will find results usually within 5 minutes. It's pretty astounding how fast it can work, because the oils go through the skin and they help repair, you know, damage, inflammation, and people will oftentimes, you know, find results within 5 minutes of their skin, you know, if it's in pain, to feel many levels better after they apply it topically. So it's pretty cool how it can be used in both ways.
And that's, you know, just to highlight that as an option being much of a quicker response time than we can certainly achieve through, you know, through what many of us parents do, because that's what we know is, you know, give Motrin, give, you know, Tylenol, give, you know, and so, and all of that obviously is going to take some time, because they've got to drink the liquid, then the medication is going to have to start working. It's going to have to get absorbed, and it's going to have to start working. So nothing is going to be quite as fast as something that you can apply topically in those scenarios that you just mentioned. So, you know, a topical anti-inflammatory that begins with a whole food is, you know, is definitely something different than what most of us are used to, because we just certainly haven't been exposed to it. So I think just awareness that this is an option for people who are looking for a difference, for a change from traditional medicine. And not that, you know, traditional medicine isn't going to work. Certainly I've given my son liquid Motrin, and it certainly has brought down fever, and it has done its job at bringing down inflammation. But the point is that for those of us who are trying to go beyond the pharmacy and have options for ourselves, our children, our family, and our extended friends and family, that goes beyond medicine, I think is just great to highlight. So I was actually going to ask you for a few one anecdotal story, but I think that your story has wrapped up so many important pieces that tied in both yourself and your son, that I think it definitely gave our audience a really good picture of what types of conditions, and it certainly goes beyond this too, can be helped by seed nutrition. And I encourage everyone, I'm going to be posting this video certainly and tagging Angel. Reach out to her if you have questions. She is a wealth of information on this topic, certainly more than I am, which is why I bring on experts, because I am not an expert in everything, but I definitely know who to find to bring you information that will be helpful to you. So thank you so much for coming on, Angel, for sharing your story, for inspiring others, and for getting the word out on a topic that just hasn't been in the forefront. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be able to share. This is my passion, and I'm just excited for people to, explore your options, look into seeds, and reach out to me if you have any further questions. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you so much, Angel.
Bye-bye.